Kristen Grauer, Madame Consul General, thank you for joining me today and the readers of View France Revisited.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Gary. Thank you very much. And please just call me Kristen. It's fine.
A Consul General, to me, that sounds like a term that Napoleon would have used before he became emperor. So what is a Consul General?
Well, I'm a career diplomat with the U.S. Department of State, and I'm assigned here by the State Department to work on our diplomatic relations here in the south of France. We here at the U.S. Consulate General in Marseille report to the U.S. Embassy in Paris, and so we're part of the overall structure of what we call U.S. Mission France.
So you're not a political appointee then?
Oh, not at all, not at all. I'm a career diplomat. I'm almost 20 years in the U.S. Foreign Service, and this is my 7th tour abroad.
So you move around
all the time, and it's a lot of fun. I've served in Benin in West Africa, in Moscow, Russia, in Liberia, back in West Africa, up in Paris, in Baghdad, in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, 3rd time to West Africa, a couple tours in the State Department in Washington, D.C., and now I'm really thrilled to be here in Marseille.
Isn't that a bit dizzying? I mean, do you feel disoriented that you don't know where you live anymore?
No, not at all. In fact, there have been things I've loved about every post I've been in. Do I lose stuff all the time? And do I now own like 8 or 9 egg beaters because I've had to replace them? Yes, right. Absolutely. I mean, those are just, that comes with the territory. We move a lot, but no, I love it. And there's adventures every single place.
When did you arrive when did you take up this position in Marseille?
In August 2020. And as that was middle of COVID, we spent 2 weeks in quarantine, got to do it. It was for the good of public health. And so I really got on the ground about September last year.
And do you have a definite, is it 3 years definite?
It's definite 3 years.
Definite
I would love to stay here a lot longer. I think anybody would. But right. No, I'm afraid 3 years, that's the max.
So we're going to talk more about Marseille, but just briefly, you like Marseille? I mean, are you enjoying it?
Oh, I love it. It's great. It's really, really interesting. We cover out of Marseille, we cover the whole Provence-Alpes-Côte region, Occitanie to the west of us, Corsica and Monaco.
And are there any numbers of how many Americans live in that territory that you cover?
That's a really tough question. That's a really tough question because COVID has changed it all, right? You know, retirees, students, tourists, cruise ships. It's just not what it used to be. So I can't really give you a hard number on that.
Is there a pre-COVID number?
Yeah, no, it's not something that we're able to estimate easily. U.S. citizens are not required to register here. A lot of countries require their citizens, if they live abroad, to register with the consulate. We always encourage our U.S. citizens to enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, which they can find at state.gov, travel.state.gov. And that's a great way for us to find you in an emergency, or if you lose your passport, we can get a hold of you easily and all of that. But because U.S. citizens are not required to register, and because the U.S. allows dual citizenship, so we have a lot of babies, for example, who are born here, who have always lived here, that are entitled to U.S. citizenship because of their parents, etc. So it's hard to get a hard number. It really is, and COVID has just made it that much harder.
So that program, I always thought that it was just so that you could spy on us. Is there a positive aspect to it? Absolutely. Suppose, for example, you have a routine case of you're in the metro and your passport falls out of your pocket. Okay, just falls out of your pocket. More likely it'll be stolen in the metro.
More likely, yeah. We get a lot of those. But suppose there's an honest person who finds it and they give it to us. Okay. And then we could be like, this person's in our consular district, okay? Well, if we can go and see the application that you used to fill it out, which probably has your home address back in the US, and that doesn't help us find you here in Marseille or wherever, right? But if you had happened to register with the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program on our website, then you probably put in your most recent cell phone, or if you are staying at some hotel here, or maybe you're a student and you're here for a whole semester, then we have a local contact for you and we can get it. Likewise, we also see it for missing persons cases. Sometimes it's a real missing person, okay? In my own work over the last 20 years, I've dealt with cases where maybe someone needed medication urgently and we're traveling and the family says, haha, they don't have their medication. And we were urgently trying to find that person. But in other cases, it might be an overly concerned parent who's like, I haven't gotten a Facebook from Joey in 3 hours. Right. And, so we get all of that. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. But we really appreciate the chance to know where citizens are, not because we want to invade your privacy, but because in a case of emergency, we can help you. Worst case scenario, like if there's a natural disaster, a terrible storm, an earthquake, or worse yet, some kind of terrorism or act of war, it's really important that we can get a hold of people if we were ever to have to organize an evacuation. Knock on wood that won't happen, but that's why we have it. Yeah.
But I do receive messages from the embassy occasionally, often recently, because there are demonstrations on Saturday, and it sounds as though they're telling me stay inside because everything's an imminent terrorist attack. Are they trying to scare me, or are they really trying to inform me?
But it's all about information. It really is. We want American citizens to make informed decisions. We like people to be prudent. We actually even have a travel warning for France right now because of COVID, for a lot of countries in the world for COVID. But in the end, we know that American citizens are private actors and they're free to do as they like, right? And given that, we want to share information as best we can to keep people safe. The United States Department of State is very, very proud of what we call the no double standard rule, which means if we have information, for example, just this week, okay, there were floods in Marseille, and there were warnings to everybody, red alert, red alert. If we have information that, of a situation going on where I told my staff, please stay home and telework for your own safety, the no double standard rule requires us to also share that with our American citizens and community.
I understand.
So a lot of what you're getting is the no double standard rule of advice that's coming to us. And we definitely, as employees, get those notifications about demonstrations. Most of the time they're peaceful. Most of the time the police are watching it. But we don't want someone to be in the wrong place in the wrong time and get hurt. We don't.
Well, I know working in travel and advising tourists, I always tell them to stay away, even though it's very fascinating as a cultural experience to go to a demonstration. I do recommend staying away from them.
Yes.
What else does the consulate do? So, for example, I'm caught trying to sell 10 kilograms of heroin to an undercover cop. Will you?
That's a bad idea.
Will you come and get me out of jail?
Well, yes, I will come visit you. Oh, I will come make sure that your rights are being respected under French law. But unfortunately, I think it's a common misconception that we here at the embassy or consulate have some kind of superpowers to get people out of jail free. Unfortunately, when you're traveling abroad in any country, you are subject to the local laws of that country. So if you break French law and you end up in a French prison, I can't get you out. What my job is to go check on you. If you sign a Privacy Act waiver, I can contact your family for you. I can contact other people, friends, contacts, NGOs to help you if you'd like. I can provide a list of attorneys that you can then choose from. I can, look and see the conditions you're in and make sure you're not being mistreated because you're an American. If we were in a country where you being an American might subject you to, ill treatment, then yes, we would protest. We would protest and say that you should be subjected to the same due process as local nationals are allowed. Or given.
Right. So I also can't call you if I'm late for my plane. You're not going to call the airport and tell them.
I wish I had that superpower too, even for myself. But alas, no, we can't. People do try. You'd be surprised. But
no, I know that you do. Yeah. You in the consulate, you do a lot more than just for individual Americans. That you're very involved diplomatically, economically. Economically, what is the role of the consulate?
Okay, yeah, we're very, very interested in helping U.S. businesses who want to export in our territory, and also French businesses who want to invest in the United States. And both of these connections, I mean, you can kind of liken it to a dating service, right? Maybe we're a matchmaker. Maybe we're helping find partnerships between French and American businesses. But the idea in the end is that we want to help create U.S. jobs. And you create U.S. jobs by exporting goods that were made in the United States, right? Or by helping French companies invest in the United States where they're going to hire Americans. So in that sense, if we're creating value for U.S. businesses or U.S. persons by employment in the United States, then we're effectively increasing our overall GDP of the United States, our overall tax revenue, and hopefully in the end, indirectly paying for our own expenses, right? By helping that economic activity happen.
Can you think, are there any recent major cases from the south of France of a French company moving to the U.S. that you have in mind?
Not in my tenure. So a lot of this is like long-term matchmaking, right? I mean, I wish I could wave a magic wand that can get you out of prison and make big business deals. But these take time. Yeah, these take time. So a lot of what we try to do is introduce the players who are able to talk to each other. Both sides, we have our U.S. Department of Commerce and our Foreign Commercial Service up in Paris who help make these deals. We also have French entities here in the south of France. Provence Promotion here in Marseille is just one example, who are ready to help U.S. businesses. So we just help make the connections. And no big fancy deals in my tenure here. Unfortunately, not yet, knock on wood, but we will keep at it.
I read that in a very different aspect of your work, that you're somehow involved with the U.S. Navy Sixth Fleet, which would be based in Naples, I guess. But are you some kind of liaison if they're coming?
No, so here at our post, we do have an NCIS officer.
You're not personally that. Oh.
I mean, no, we're happy to work with them. We'll work with any U.S. government official, but yeah, I'm not part of the Navy.
You're not part of that. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I thought maybe you arranged parties and got prostitutes.
Well, I can only speak. I can only speak of my tenure here, and unfortunately, due to COVID, we haven't had any ship visits. So that's one of the things that we would have. We would do a lot of is ship visits here and under normal terms.
So one of my specialties is war touring for Americans. I often take or advise people on going to Normandy and visiting the D-Day beaches. And I find that, and it's a frustration to me, is that Omaha Beach and the Normandy American Cemetery, however wonderful and important they are, they suck up all of our patriotic energy, and we don't seem to have room for visiting other places, such as in the south of France, where I know where there was what we call a second D-Day landing on August 15th, 1944, landing in your territory between Saint-Tropez and Saint-Raphael. Is I suppose, and there's a cemetery, the Rhone Cemetery, American Cemetery. Have you been to ceremonies there yet?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you that the Provence landings of August 14th, 1944 are a completely undertold story. And that's undertold on both sides of the Atlantic because this second D-Day, as you call it, for the whole south of France, was really integral to the overall ending of the war. And yes, very, very important for the liberation of France from the south to have this sort of second front come up and join those that had come across from Normandy. I only found out later after being here, my own grandfather disembarked in Marseille with the U.S. Army. I knew he had been in France. I knew he worked up his way up to Germany. I did not know he had landed here until I'd been here already 6 months.
How did you find? Did someone mention it to you, or were you at?
No, in fact, well, we were visiting the memorial for the Provence landings. It's in Toulon, and that's a great place that anybody should visit if they're interested in these sort of Provence landings. And they pointed out to me that my grandfather's regiment, the 103rd, had actually, landed in Marseille. And because of that, I was able to look up a bit more and confirm a few facts with my uncle that, yeah, he did land here.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's touching. And
what's even more interesting, so our consulate helped produce a film, Marseille et les Américains. It's all about the U.S. presence here in Marseille during World War II. And what's super interesting about this, especially now that I know for me, from my own family connection, is that there was a huge staging area just north of Marseille, kind of between Marseille and Aix, that had over 2 million GIs transit in and out. And it became this giant, colossal army base full of tents, and even had a big theater in a hillside. And the presence there still, people remember as having an effect on local businesses, and all the jeeps and the supplies and the Liberty ships that came in through the port of Marseille, and all of the effect that it had on the whole region. Even like the jazz clubs and things that were in downtown Marseille at the time. But my own grandfather, according to the records of the 103rd, marched up from the old port, up to this camp near Calais, and stayed there for 2 weeks, got their feet, on the ground, got used to European time, and then marched north. So the history here is fascinating, and I would encourage anyone to read the film, watch our film about that.
Is the film is available online?
Absolutely, in French and English, and we'll be sure to share the links with you. So you can share
I'll put it in the text that will
accompany. Great, fantastic.
So early in the war, there are these major figures that most Americans don't know about, and one is Varian Fry, and another Hiram Bingham, who worked at the consulate. Could you sort of
absolutely
us just a bit about it?
Well, the history of our consulate is really rich when it comes to World War II, and especially helping people who were persecuted by the Germans escape on over to the United States. That's not to say that they were able to help everyone. That's impossible. But we think that they did help about 2,500 people, including some prominent intellectuals, artists, etc. Get out through the south of France over to the United States. Now, Varian Fry was sent over by Eleanor Roosevelt through an organization that has evolved now into the well-known NGO, the International Rescue Committee. And they set up shop here to sort of identify people and help them get papers to get out. And Hiram Bingham was a vice consul here at our consulate at that time, and he was helping with actual processing of papers. They were all legit visas and passports, but perhaps issued with less than complete documentation, shall I say, at the time. I mean, they weren't fraudulent documents; they were real documents. But whether or not they should have been accorded according to the rules at that time, it was what was under dispute. So Hiram Bingham really, he deserves respect as a diplomat for his dissent, because at the time the State Department would not have approved of his actions, and in fact he was removed from this post because of it. But it was a heroic effort, what he did do, and it led to saving thousands of people.
So again, I'll put those two names in the text accompanying this so that people can look up for more information about it.
Oh, definitely worth it. Mm-hmm.
Do you so you've been there for a little over a year, and we've been much of it in COVID period, but do you have you had an opportunity to travel through much of your
we've seen quite a bit. I only want to do more. Every time I get out, I want to keep going out, right?
Well, read France Revisited. There are some articles that might interest you for your territory.
I will. I definitely will.
What is there anything that really stands out? I mean, I know you have to be very diplomatic about things. But are there certain things that you really liked when you?
Do I really like? Yeah. There are a couple memorable moments that I've really enjoyed. One of the most touching personal things that I've enjoyed, we went up to Saint-Martin-Vésubie, which is a little town a couple hours north of Nice. It was really hard hit 1 year ago by the storm Alex. And unfortunately, you talk about a real disaster. I mean, the buildings that were turned head over heels and the thousands of people that were affected in that whole region. It was really kind of disastrous. But last year, I really found it so touching to go up there with the France États-Unis organization. It's sort of an association of French and American people who are interested in our bilateral relationship. And we went and we dressed up like Santa Claus and elves, and we passed out a Christmas present to each of the children that had been affected in that town. Wonderful. And that was a very touching moment for me, to get sort of off the beaten path. But it's a beautiful region, beautiful part of, there's the whole Parc Mercantour up there. That's really interesting, and I enjoyed it.
It's Nice, very close to Nice. I mean, from a tourist travel aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth it. And, with COVID last year, the ski lifts weren't open, but I mean, that's a very prominent ski area. So it looked like a charming winter alpine town.
How about the other side? So Toulouse, for example, is that area? Do you want?
Space City, definitely. Like the aerospace industry there in Cité de l'Espace is a super interesting tourist attraction if people want to learn more about space. I find the whole downtown Toulouse is such an interesting area to walk around, and the history. Actually, so many of the cities are interesting. Montpellier is really nice for its universities and a lot of the research that goes on in that part of the world. I really liked seeing the flamingos in the Camera. It was nice, really cool. I never imagined to see that in the south of France, but it was
very close to Marseille.
Yeah, not far at all. And then, of course, on the Côte d'Azur, I mean, there's so much to see. Nice, we've been to Monaco a lot. I really, hats off to Monaco for all the work they're doing on the environment. And that's something that really interests the United States right now as well. But it's neat to see all they're doing. And they have the great Oceanographic Museum in Monaco with a really interesting aquarium, and also the history of oceanography through Prince Albert I and everything he did in his explorations around the world.
And Marseille itself, do you drink pastis?
I love pastis. I must admit, I didn't know it that well before coming here. But what's better than playing pétanque with a glass of pastis? I mean,
so how many would you drink at once? Because
well, I already play pétanque pretty poorly, so not to disadvantage myself any further, I think one, maybe two is enough.
Yeah. Well, I actually like 1.5, but in order to have the half, I have to get 2, and then I end up having the second. But 3,
I understand.
Three is a no. Never.
Too much.
Never.
No.
How about
everything in moderation?
How about the rosés of Provence?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, and just there's such a wide selection. It's so affordable compared to what you would pay other places in the world, and really good. I've had a chance to visit a couple wineries all over the region, and it's just interesting to see the whole process, soup to nuts.
As you know, and you were in Paris, and when there are Paris events, cocktail parties, it's champagne all the time. But down in the south, what is the drink at the cocktail parties? Is it rosé?
Usually rosé or pastis. Usually.
Really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Do Americans travel south? Because they love Paris.
Yes, and I think you're seeing a lot of Americans down here. Certainly, I haven't seen them personally because of COVID, but I can't wait for travel to normalize, for people to come. I know the local French tourist industry is aching for Americans to come back. Some have. It has picked up, but I think they're really aching for that to start again. I mean, everything from lavender fields to ancient Roman ruins to just even the bright lights big city of Marseille itself, which is a really, really cool place. The view from Notre Dame de la Garde, you can't beat it. I mean, it's just really stunning. Or the Calanques, which are the fjords just outside of the city center. Take a boat through there. It's great.
And it's not too dangerous. You're not going to be caught in the middle of a drug deal.
I sure hope not. I sure hope not. And keep your wits about you, of course. But like, no, I feel very safe in the city. I feel very safe in the city. Certainly, you need to be as prudent as you would in a big city in the United States. But if you're careful and you keep your wits about you, should be fine. And if not, then you call us, and we're there to help you.
Thank you. Well, that's a great end note. Kristen Grauer, Consul General in Marseille, thank you so much for being with me and telling me about your own self and the region and the consul in general.
No, it's great. And hope to see you down here and not in jail.
And with either pastis or rosé.
That too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kristen.